Joseph Roy Metheny was born on March 2, 1955, in Baltimore, USA. In the family of 6 children, most of the time no one took care of them, as their father suffered from alcoholism and spent all the money on drinking, and their mother had to work very hard. When Joseph was 6 years old, his father died in a car accident. The responsibility for the family fell entirely on the mother, and the children received even less attention. She now worked double shifts to be able to pay the bills. She worked as a waitress and drove a truck selling food. Often, the children lived with other families under the foster care program, which allows children to live in a safe place until they are returned to their biological parents or until the family they live with decides to adopt them. Joseph started overeating due to stress, which led to weight problems. At 18, he joined the U.S. Army. It was 1973. He served in Germany. During his service, he became addicted to illegal substances. His behavior changed significantly, marking the beginning of many problems. However, it would take some time for him to truly realize the extent of these issues. His mother began to notice the decline of her son, who was becoming increasingly distant from the family. Friends jokingly called him little guy because, despite his height, he suffered from obesity. Gradually, his addiction made him resemble his father. He started frequenting bars and lived on the streets with homeless people who set up makeshift camps in the south of Baltimore. There, Joseph met a woman whose name is unknown. They had a son together, and upon learning he was going to be a father, Joseph got a job at a company. Everything seemed fine. He was considered intelligent and educated, but they didn't know about his addiction. It all started on a July night in 1994. Joseph was at work. He operated a forklift at the Alex Company, which was involved in the production and sale of wooden planks. That night, he worked late, staying a few hours longer than required. After finishing work, he returned home as usual. Upon opening the door, he realized he was alone in the house. There was no wife, no 6-year-old son. It turned out that the woman took everything and left Joseph. Faced with emptiness in his home, he became furious, not so much because of losing his wife, who was also addicted to substances like him. He regarded her as trash, but because of the disappearance of his son, whom he loved. Several days later, he began searching everywhere for his family, but to no avail. Only 6 months later, some people told Joseph they had seen them on the other side of the city with a man who was forcing the woman to provide services in exchange for drugs. A few days later, Joseph's ex-wife and her partner were arrested for using and carrying illegal substances, and the boy was taken away due to negligence and mistreatment. Joseph couldn't do anything to get his son back, so he grew to hate his ex-wife and her partner. He believed they should pay for what they had done, so he began looking for them. It turned out they had been released, and the only punishment was losing their son. Now, Joseph's ex-wife and her new partner lived under a bridge with other addicts. Joseph decided to try to find them there, but he failed. However, he found 2 people lying on a dirty old mattress. And when he saw them, he remembered why he couldn't see his son. He directed his anger towards these people and killed them with an axe. He hid the bodies in the bushes and continued searching in nearby areas. That night, he was looking for his ex-wife under other bridges nearby. It was then that he noticed 2 women near the place where he had committed the murders. Joseph approached them and tried to gather information about the whereabouts of his ex-wife. One of the women moved a few meters away. He followed her and asked her questions. Due to the effects of substances, she was not herself and behaved as if she didn't know anything. Failing to get what he wanted, Joseph began to attack her, and then he killed her. After finishing, he dragged the body into the bushes and left it there. He did the same with the second woman. As he was about to leave her in the bushes next to the other woman, he noticed an old man who was fishing by the river and was watching Joseph. Then, he took an iron pipe from the garbage and ran towards the fisherman, who couldn't react in time, receiving a series of blows that killed him. When Joseph came to his senses and realized what he had done, he moved the victims' bodies to the bank of the Patapsco River in Baltimore and attempted to hide the bodies under rocks. Then he washed himself in the river and tried to clean up at the site to avoid leaving evidence. That night, he killed 5 people in approximately 7 hours. In one of the nights in 1994, he met Katie Ann Magaziner, 39 years old. They used substances together, and when she refused to engage in sexual activity with him, he grabbed her by the throat, choking her until she died. Then he dug a shallow grave in the woods behind the factory, and no one noticed. 6 months later, Joseph severed the head from the body and discarded it in the trash, but the body remained there for several years. On August 2, 1995, the bodies of homeless people were found. Their identities were established as Randall Breyer and Erin Baker. That night, several people noticed a heavy-set man walking near the bridges. His identity was determined, leading to Joseph being arrested and charged with the murders. He was denied bail, so he had to stay in Baltimore's jail for 18 months awaiting trial. However, there was no evidence proving his guilt. After a week-long trial, he was released due to lack of evidence. It was established that another homeless person, who was also responsible, had committed the murders. Upon his release, Joseph contacted the company he had worked for before and asked to be rehired. The supervisor agreed, considering him a good worker. He also allowed Joseph to stay in a small trailer located on the company's premises. In exchange, Joseph was supposed to provide security for the place. He was given keys to the entire premises. The supervisor didn't know that Joseph had other intentions. The company's building was located at the end of the street, far from the highway, an ideal place for Joseph to fulfill his fantasies. In November 1996, he met Kimberly Lane Spencer, whom he stabbed after she refused to have sexual intercourse with him in his trailer. This was the first time he dismembered the meat from his victim and put it in containers, which he placed in the refrigerator. That week, he organized a kiosk where he sold burgers. He mixed pork and beef with human meat. No one noticed the difference in taste. He even mentioned that many people told him these were the best burgers they had ever tasted. Everything was going well until he ran out of the special meat. On December 8, 1996, he found his new victim, Rita Kemper. They used substances in his trailer for some time. When he tried to undress her, she resisted and screamed in desperation. No one could help her, so Rita managed to escape the trailer and run. Joseph caught her and dragged her back. He told her he was going to kill her, but Rita managed to escape again. She reached a fence with barbed wire, but that didn't stop her from climbing over it. She reached the highway, where a truck driver saw her. He took her to the nearest auto repair shop, where she called the police. Joseph gathered his belongings, knowing they would soon come for him. But when he stepped out of the trailer, the police were already there. He was ordered to lie on the ground. That's how he was arrested and began to be interrogated. He denied all the accusations he was arrested for. The girl told the police that he threatened to kill her like the other women who were buried nearby. He denied these words and added that he did everything with the girl's consent. He was released. Worried that the police might investigate the location, Joseph asked a friend to help him dig up Kimberly's grave, where her body still lay on the factory premises. On December 15, 1996, his friend reported him to the police, telling them that Joseph had asked him to help move the woman's body, which was buried near Joseph's trailer. When the police arrived, they arrested Joseph again, as well as the owners of the company on suspicion of complicity. They asked Joseph to tell them where Kimberly was buried. He gave them the location, and the police found the girl's body the same day. During the interrogation, Joseph confessed to other crimes as well, including the murder of Katie Ann Magaziner. He told the police where he had buried her body. A shallow grave containing the remains of the woman was found. Most of the skull was missing, but they were able to identify the victim as Katie. A few days later, Joseph confessed to being a serial killer, claiming to have killed 13 people. According to him, he left the bodies by the Patapsco River, where they were never found. He also claimed that he dismembered most of the victims and preserved the meat to later consume it. He then came up with the idea of opening a food kiosk to sell burgers made from human meat mixed with animal meat. His words shocked everyone, but doubts about the veracity of his statements began to arise over time. Every day, he was interrogated in a small room. Investigators wanted to get to the bottom of things and close open cases. Every day, he was taken from one location to another, hoping he would reveal where he left the bodies of the other victims. However, a month passed without any bodies being found. By that point, the police didn't know if Joseph was telling the truth or simply delusional. What he was saying sounded too fantastical. One of Joseph's problems was that he was a skilled liar. So, fabricating stories on the spot was easy for him. In 1997, a trial was held for Rita Kemper, the last victim who managed to escape. Metheny was sentenced to 50 years in prison for attempted kidnapping and rape. In 1998, he confessed to the murder of Katie Magasaneer. On July 14, 2000, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. No one knew if Joseph was lying because he wanted to or if his mind was so unstable that he confessed to past crimes. No evidence was found for the murders he claimed to have committed. Did he really open a burger kiosk to sell his victims' meat? Only 2 murders were proven. He was clearly mentally unstable, leading to false confessions. He said, I will never say I regret what I did because that would be a lie. I am more than willing to give my life for what I have done. Let God judge me. He can even send me to hell forever. I'll have fun there. On Saturday, August 5, 2017, Joseph Metheny was found dead in his cell at around 3 p.m. at the North Branch Correctional Institution in Cumberland, Maryland. He was 62 years old. The cause of death is unknown. This case serves as a vivid example that not everything confessed by killers is true. Many confess to crimes they didn't commit just to gain notoriety.